On Global TV News Express, federal government implements a salary pact with academic staff union of universities. In business, fintech sector warns against overregulation as National Assembly pushes Commission bill. On the foreign scene, Iran's threat to attack ships in Strait of Hormuz drives up oil prices. In sport, South African football giant proposes to Nigerian national goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Express on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Sadia Yakubu. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channels 276. And now the news in details. The Senate has postponed the resumption of its plenary session earlier scheduled for Thursday, March 5, 2026. The development was contained in a notice issued on the directive of the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. According to this notice, signed by the Clerk of the Senate, Emmanuel Odo, plenary will now reconvene in the Senate chamber on Tuesday, March 10, 2026 at 11 a.m. The federal government has begun the implementation of key welfare components of the 2025 renegotiated agreement with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU. Education Minister Tunji Alausa confirmed this in a statement issued by the Director of Press and Public Relations in the ministry, Boro Folashade. The minister reaffirmed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's commitment to the well-being of academic staff and the stability of Nigerian university system. Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, has inaugurated a Ministerial Monitoring, Evaluation and Implementation Committee on Tertiary Education Trust Fund, high-impact project for engineering and technology faculties of universities. Saadat Garba has details.
Addressing stakeholders at the event, the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, said the intervention is part of the broader reform agenda to ensure that universities are not just centers of theoretical learning, but hubs of practical training, research, innovation, and problem solving. He described the inauguration as a critical milestone in deliberate and strategic efforts to position engineering and technology education as a driver of industrialization, innovation, and sustainable national development.
Today's event marked a critical milestone in the deliberate and strategic efforts of the federal government of Nigeria to reposition engineering and technology education as a driver of industrialization, innovation, and sustainable national development.
Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Soni Echono, said the initiative is one of many on the way as they are aimed at ensuring improved teaching and learning facilities, modern infrastructure, and better educational outcomes across Nigerian universities. He stressed that the implementation process must be monitored effectively.
Other interventions that we made to ensure that the teaching and learning facilities on these campuses and vital infrastructure are improved upon.
The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Student Engagement, Sunday Asefon, said the program ensures that students are able to apply their knowledge practically, which will also contribute to shaping their future.
That Nigerian students can benefit from. Likewise, our lecturers can also testify to it.
The inauguration is a strategic national investment in Nigeria's future engineers, technologists, innovators, and industrial leaders with facilities that allow them to design, fabricate, test, innovate, and industrialize solutions. Saada Sugarba, reporting for Global TV News.
The Nigerian Railway Corporation says it has increased the number of trips on the Abuja-Kaduna train service in response to growing passenger demand along the corridor. The development is contained in a statement issued on its X profile and signed by the Chief Public Relations Officer of the corporation. According to the statement, the new timetable will take effect from Friday, March 6, 2026, and it is aimed at providing more travel options, enhancing operational flexibility, and strengthening service delivery on the busy road. The Senate Committee on Finance has rejected the 2026 revenue projections presented by the Corporate Affairs Commission, describing the document submitted by the agency as inadequate and poorly structured. Lawmakers said the Commission failed to provide detailed record of the 2025 revenue generation, expenditure and projections for the 2026. National Assembly correspondent Anita Patrick reports.
Senator Issa expressed dissatisfaction with inconsistencies in revenue figures, remittances, and outstanding obligations contained in the document presented by the Registrar General and Chief Executive Officer of CAC, Hussaini Ishaq Magaji.
You have to provide explanations for the variances. Expected, actual. I think you understand. Hello, expected, actual, and the variance, and explanations for those variants. Then for 2026, we need the assumptions, clear-cut assumptions, okay, underlining your figures.
The chairman of the committee, Senator Sani Musa, subsequently asked CAC to review its submission and provide comprehensive explanations addressing revenue remittances, outstanding liabilities, and financial projections on Thursday, March 5th.
What you need to do, we will step you down now. Then you make sure that you package everything so that by the time you present to us and we looked at it, whatever question we have to raise, we'll raise it. I know that you are not taking any money from the national budget. You are self-funded, but there is a certain percentage that's supposed to be retained by you and the other to be remitted to the Consolidated Revenue Fund.
Earlier, Magaji tendered an unreserved apology to the committee over his absence at a previous budget defense session and an interactive meeting with the federal government's economic team, blaming the incident on an internal communication crisis within the commission.
I hold this committee in high esteem, sir. What happened that day, sir, it's actually a miscommunication between our staff and the committee. I was coming from Lagos, sir, and I asked them to come in advance to let the committee know that I'm coming, because we received the letter a day, evening before that day. So I had to leave some of the activities that took me to Lagos and rush back.
The absence had earlier angered lawmakers, prompting calls for President Bola Tinubu to sack the Registrar General over what senators described as disrespect to the Senate. Following a motion moved by Senator Issa Jibril, the committee rescinded its earlier resolution recommending his removal and withdrew proposed disciplinary measures. From the National Assembly, Anita Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
Saying that disbursement had commenced nationwide. In a statement issued in Abuja, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation said it had started paying affected workers after resolving the issue that disrupted the schedule. However, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation has begun disbursing February 2026 salaries to federal government treasury-funded workers starting Monday, March 2nd, 2026, following a brief delay. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has reminded members of the National Assembly that beyond their constitutional powers, they remain accountable to God for every decision and every law they enact. The admonition came at the commissioning of the newly completed National Assembly Chapel in Abuja. National Assembly correspondent Anita Patrick again reports.
The dedication of the National Assembly Chapel marked the completion of a project first conceived during the 6th Assembly and formally initiated in the 8th Assembly by former Speaker Yakubu Dogara. Addressing lawmakers, clergy, and senior government officials, the First Lady described the occasion as historic and deeply personal, recalling her 12 years in the Senate where Christian legislators held fellowships in committee rooms due to the absence of a dedicated worship space. She said while lawmakers represent over 200 million Nigerians, they must remember they ultimately answer to God.
As we dedicate this chapel today, may it inspire humility in leadership, courage in decision-making, and compassion in service. And may Nigeria continue to flourish as we collectively seek the face of God in worship.
In his remarks, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, described the structure as more than a building, calling it a spiritual milestone for Nigeria's democracy. He stressed that governance must be guided by conscience and divine wisdom.
And unless the laws of men reflect the justice of God, they may command obedience, but they will never command reverence nor shape the destiny of humanity.
Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, said the chapel symbolizes accountability under God's sovereign authority, especially at moments where debates threaten national interests.
Chambers where debate can become combative and politics can become consuming. The fellowship has kept alive the reminder that we are first and foremost accountable to the higher calling. This chapel is a physical expression of that accountability.
Former head of state Yakubu Gowon urged lawmakers to prioritize national unity, while former Speaker Dogara emphasized repentance and forgiveness as keys to national healing. The exhortation was delivered by the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto, Matthew Hassan Kuka, with prayers offered for Nigeria and its leaders. The ceremony drew top political figures and religious leaders, reinforcing what speakers described as the enduring intercession between faith and governance. From the National Assembly, Aniete Patrick, reporting for Global TV News.
Away from that story, residents of Nasarawa State took to the streets of the capital, Lafia, to protest the chronic and erratic power supply, calling for immediate government intervention to address the ongoing electricity crisis. The administrators cited dilapidated infrastructure, worn-out transformers, inadequate power allocation, and poor maintenance as the main factors behind the frequent blackouts they have severely disrupted daily life. Speaking during the protest, the leader of demonstrator, Ibrahim Abdullah Tama, appealed to the state authorities to initiate a comprehensive audit of the power infrastructure and liaise with federal power agencies to secure sufficient electricity allocation for the states. You're watching the live broadcast of News Express. News Express continues after these weather forecasts, plus business, foreign and sports stories. On the other side of this break, please stay with us.
Hello and glad you could join us. It's still very much hazy over the country. We presently have our eyes on this dust plume just above the country. Even though it appears to be moving zonally, we expect some of this dust to finally get to the country. So we have prospects of moderate dust haze to affect the extreme northern part of the country for Tuesday. It should be hazy over much of the central states, while we expect prospects of rains for the southern part of the country, with these prospects higher to the southwest coast and Bayelsa. If you're anywhere within the western parts of Kwara and Oyo, you could wake up to very cloudy morning, even though the prospect of rains are a bit slim. There's an increased chance of thermal discomfort for the southern half of the country and parts of the central states, while we have a high to moderate vigilance for meningitis over the extreme north and the central part of the country, and you may want to take care. That's it from here. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back from that short break. And in business news, the federal government has broken up the controversial oil prospecting license 245 oil blocking into few new assets to be operated by the Eni and Shell, in a move that could finally unlock one of Nigeria's largest untapped deep water reserves after nearly 3 decades of legal and political disputes. A source familiar with the development said the restructuring effectively clears the path for the long-delayed development of OPL 245, a field widely regarded as one of Nigeria's most prolific offshore sites. The block has remained idle amid overlapping lawsuits and investigations spanning Nigeria, Italy, and other jurisdictions. Players in the Nigerian fintech sector have expressed differing opinions on the proposed creation of Nigerian Fintech Regulatory Commission. While some support the move, others warn it could create overlapping mandates and duplicate the roles of existing regulators. National Assembly correspondent Aneti Patrick reports.
The public hearing organized by the National Assembly's Joint Committees on Digital and Electronic Banking Regulations, Science and Technology Communications, and Capital Markets and Institutions aimed to gather input from leading fintech operators on the proposed bill. Lawmakers, however, stressed the importance of the proposed body in safeguarding citizens' hard-earned funds and closing regulatory gaps while maintaining harmony within the sector.
This bill, HB 2389, seeks to address these challenges in a structured and comprehensive manner. The bill before us today is also designed to establish the Nigerian Fintech Regulatory Commission.
Nigerian Fintech Regulatory Commission, if established, will enforce standard rules, codes of practices for operators and investors.
During presentations, fintech operators warned that a parallel regulator could raise compliance costs, reduce investor confidence, and slow innovation. They recommended retaining the Central Bank of Nigeria as the lead regulator with stronger coordination among the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, and the Securities and Exchange Commission.
OPE respectively recommends that the House of Representatives adopts a single-led regulator model anchored by the Central Bank of Nigeria. 2. Clearly define interagency coordination to avoid duplication.
It's going to result in duplication of regulations and regulators, right? And for us, this can create significant compliance burden.
At the close of the hearing, the committee acknowledged the recommendations and promised to consider them carefully.
The Technical Committee will look at all those agencies who have relationship with this bill. And we are going to look into it and look at where the fear of overlap is strengthened.
The bill seeks to establish the Nigerian Fintech Regulatory Commission with powers to impose penalties for corporate offenses, fines of up to 1 million naira or imprisonment for the first-time offenders and up to 5 million naira or 3 years for repeat offenses. It also empowers the Commission to appoint officials or inspectors to monitor compliance, inspect premises, and request relevant documents with proper authorization. From the National Assembly, Aneti Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
The price of premium motor spirits petrol at retail pump stations may soon rise to between 980 naira to 1,000 naira per litre, depending on the location nationwide, following a fresh increase in the gantry price by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. The development comes after the president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, unveiled plans to invest in electricity generation alongside expansion into steel production and port infrastructure. This is part of a broader ambition to industrialize Africa and strengthen domestic energy security. The National Publicity Secretary of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Chinedu Kadike, confirmed the likely retail price hike. And on the foreign scene, oil prices have risen sharply against after Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps said it would fire on any ship trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Its announcement of the closure of the sea passage, which lies between Iran and Oman, threatens to choke what it is world's most vital oil and gas route, accounting for a fifth of global flows. Ibrahim Jabari, an advisor to the Guards Commander-in-Chief, said it will also attack oil pipelines, adding that it will not allow a drop of crude to leave the region. Tehran has targeted infrastructure critical to the world energy production as part of its retaliation for the Israel and U.S. bombing campaign that began on Saturday. United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer has confirmed that the UK now will allow the United States to use British bases for what he described as a specific and limited defensive purpose. Edika Michael has this report.
In a televised address, Keir Starmer said the UK was not involved in the initial strikes on Iran and will not join offensive action. However, he confirmed that British jets are already flying defensive missions and that further steps have been taken to protect British lives and regional allies.
Yesterday, I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. Over the last 2 days, Iran has launched sustained attacks across the region at countries who did not attack them. They've hit airports and hotels where British citizens are staying.
Stammer said that over the past 2 days, Iran had launched sustained attacks across the region, including strikes on locations where British nationals were present. He said there are at least 200,000 British citizens in the region, including residents, families on holiday, and those in transit, and urged them to register with the Foreign Office and follow official travel advice.
This is clearly a dangerous situation. We have at least 200,000 British citizens in the region. Our armed forces, who are located across the region, are also being put at risk by Iran's actions. The death of the supreme leader will not stop Iran from launching these strikes. Their approach is becoming even more reckless and more dangerous to civilians. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement.
Keir Starmer, while reiterating that the UK will not take part in offensive strikes, the Prime Minister confirmed the Gulf partners had requested additional support and the United States had asked for permission to use the British bases to target the missile infrastructure. Starmer said the legal basis for the decision was collective self-defense and the protection of the British life, adding that a summary of the government's legal advice will be published. He also confirmed that British aircraft are flying as part of the coordinated defensive operations and have already intercepted the Iranian strikes. He concluded by affirming the measures as necessary to protect British nationals and prevent further regional destabilization. Edikan Michael for Global TV News.
Thank you very much, Edikan Michael, for that report. The United States has imposed sanctions on Rwanda's defense forces and top military officials over their role in ongoing fighting in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. It has also called for their immediate withdrawal from the mineral-rich region. Washington says Rwanda's military actions are sabotaging a peace agreement between the two countries, signed in December last year, which was brokered by the United States. President Donald Trump described the deal as a great miracle after years of violence in the Eastern Congo, but warned that any party who violated it would face severe penalties. And in sports, the Super Falcons have returned to training in Yaoundé after a shock 1-0 defeat to Cameroon in the first leg of the friendly. At the Nigerian first loss of the Indomitable Lioness in 8 meetings, the Falcons will look to bounce back on Tuesday's return leg as they build momentum ahead of the Women's African Cup of Nations title defense in Morocco. The chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, has inaugurated the newly elected board of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria, describing the peaceful election as another major win for the commission. He said the process aligns with the reform mandate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to reposition sports federation for optimal performance. Diko charged the 15-member board led by Francis Obi to justify its renewed mandate by elevating badminton's profile locally and internationally, urging stakeholders to embrace dialogue and protect sports image. Director General Bukola Olupade expressed confidence in the board's capacity to drive grassroots development, while Obi pledged to raise the bar and consolidate on gains recorded in his previous tenure. South African football giant Case Chiefs offer for Nigerian goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali as they look to bolster their squad ahead of the new season. The 27-year-old shortstopper is currently a free agent, making him an attractive option in the transfer market. Sources close to the situation indicate that the Soweto-based club are near on securing his services on a permanent deal as they aim to strengthen their goalkeeping department. Nwabali has built a reputation for his commanding presence between sticks, sharp reflex and composure in high-pressure matches. As Global TV News Express comes to an end, here is a recap of our top stories. The federal government has begun the implementation of key welfare components of the 2025 renegotiated agreement with the Academic Staff Union of University, ASU. In business, players in Nigeria's fintech sector have expressed differing opinions on the proposed creation of the Nigerian Fintech Regulatory Commission. On the foreign scene, oil prices have risen sharply again after Iran's regulatory guard corps said it would fire on any ships trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And in sports, South African football giant Kaizer Chiefs offer for Nigerian's goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali as they look to bolster the squad ahead of the new season. And that's it on News Express. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channels 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen using that Global TV NG. I am Sadia Yakubu saying thank you for watching.